Welcome to 12 Hours in the Future with Maria Sanchir. This is part 2 with my conversation with Ed Stone, director, screenplay writer. We were just talking about Jackie Chan and his priceless contribution in cinema. Our conversation continues.
There's a great story, speaking about scripts, is Jackie, I don't know what he's doing now, but when we first started, he would learn English phonetically.
Mm-hmm.
He would learn English phonetically. So he would say the lines and know what they meant, but he really didn't speak English.
Right.
And there's a great one where, it's the buddy comedy where the African-American cop and him get together, Rush Hour.
Yeah.
And Jackie came completely, the entire script off book, memorized, except his partner was ad-libbing every single line.
Right.
And Jackie had no idea what was going on. It was like, and that's one of those things you go, oh, this is going to be a long shoot. It's going to be a long production because, one guy only wants to ad lib.
Of course.
Jackie can't play. He can't play that game. They worked it out, obviously, because I think they made 3 of those.
So I'm so interested about, because I've never spoken to somebody who does a screenplay for animation. So I'm really interested in, how do you write a character in a animation? I mean, like, do you specifically think like cats, and how do you even decide like it's gonna be cats and dogs? Like, why not birds? Like, what is the process, like, argument that you have with Nate Hopper, probably?
Right. On Paws of Fury, I think the first 3 years we worked on it, it was people. The characters were people. And
first 3 years you worked on it?
First 3 years we worked on it, the characters were people. And then oddly enough, we talked to 2 people almost at the same time. We talked to Chris Rock about it, and we talked to Rob Minkoff about it, who became the director on the movie. And both of them said the same thing. They said, with the subject matter and with what audiences like, it should be a fable. It should be animals, because it makes it easier to talk about harder subjects, for one thing, because they're animals and they're funny, but it also is more engaging to watch animals act like people. It's more engaging for audiences. And so we took 3 years of work and we threw it all out, and we kind of went through all the animals on the, what should we get, what animals don't get along, and then so cats and dogs came like 4.5 years into the project.
Wow. My mind is just like broke just now.
Right. Well, animation takes a long time to make. So
right.
Paws of Fury will come out July 15th, and it will be just shy of 12 years we worked on the movie.
Oh, wow. That was like one of the questions. I was wondering, how long did you
12 years. Wow. Most animations, like if you're at DreamWorks, or if you're at, if you're at Disney or something like that, 4 years is a good benchmark. 3 or 4 years, easy. And that's if you have all the money on planet Earth to throw at it and all the staff to throw at it. And our movie was independently produced, independently financed. And so you didn't have money. So you had to make sure things really worked before you sent them off to be animated. Or, you had to make sure that everything was really, before you sent it to have, character designs done. And there's just a lot of steps. But one of the reasons that animated movies tend not to wear out their welcome, because people have spent years getting them to a really good point. As long as they're not a parent punisher kind of movie, animated movies do just fine. And by parent punishment, they're too young. They play for kids, but not for adults.
Right.
Like, you don't want to make a movie that the parents want to walk out of the room.
Yeah.
And so those are parent punishers. You also want an animated movie that, like, a couple can go on a date on a Friday night and see it and have a good time. So you spend a lot of time, where when you write live action, you write for an adult. You write for a 30-year-old adult, or a 65-year-old adult, or an 8-year-old child. But when you write, when you're writing animation, the worlds can be so completely different. It opens you up for what they can be and what they can talk about or how they can act. But it also has to be super specific. So when it starts, the audience will go, "Oh, I get this. I know I know what this person is. I know. So like when Hank arrives in Paws of Fury and he's this nice bumbling guy, you have to show that right away.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nice bumbling guy and I like him. I'm gonna root for him because I like him. You need that right away. You can't have a lot of subtext.
Okay.
For that.
Just establish him right away from the beginning.
Establish it right away, and then you can have some gray area depth that you can, but you want the audience to be cheering for him from the first time you see him. You want it, a lot of audience, a lot of things like Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
You like the Tom Hanks character so much as soon as you meet him, and then
Woody,
and then here comes a stranger that throws all that off.
Right.
And it makes him act in ways that that Woody realizes he doesn't like in himself either.
Right.
That's the journey, right? The journey was he had to come back around to the person that he wanted to be.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing about animation is there's no limit on the world, and whereas there is in live action, well, with special effects that's changing, but there's no limit on the world, and but almost always, like for animation, they're animals or they're bugs or they're robots, but they all move human, right? They all stand upright. They all walk, they all talk to each other with, colloquial stuff. They can hold things. So you've given them thumbs and they all act human, and everybody just accepts it. Everybody just goes, totally get it. As long as you're consistent, the audience will always go, totally get it. Got it. Let's move on. Let's get on.
Right.
Let's get on. And that's the trick with your screenplay and with movies is you have to you need a balance where you don't get so far ahead of the audience they're lost, and you don't get so far behind the audience that they're so far ahead that they're bored.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you were talking earlier about like, when do you drop information to the audience? When do you drop stuff to the audience? Because what you want to drop it at the exact moment the audience is ready for the next bit of information. Like, I need to know more about this character. Like, why is she doing that? Oh, that's why she's doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's the balance you do, is like, you have to go along, I can drop so many things. But the worst thing you can do is get way behind an audience where the audience goes, I already know. They get bored. And then trying to get them back, you use up all the energy of the movie to get them back. And that doesn't work. Right. I'm just talking now. I'm just blah, blah, blah.
No, I love that you mentioned character design, right? Because I'm like really interested. How much do you get a say in that? Like, do you write like Jumbo, gray cat with an attitude, like and very thick black brows, like eyebrows? Or what? How do you like do that in animation? Like, how much say do you have in that?
For animation, so size. I always say something about like Jimbo is like this gigantic, huge cat. Right. And so you say, you can say gigantic, but more important than that, especially for character designers, is when you describe the character. Mm-hmm. When you describe, like, he's gruff, he's running away from his past, he's a has-been, he doesn't take care of himself. Okay. He has a catnip problem. In the movie, he has a catnip problem. That all stuff, because that leans more into, they can start picturing that guy in human form, and then they can go, oh, I'm going to take this guy in human form, and I'm going to go, I can take, you're so good at this, and I'm so bad at this. You can take like a really big, gruff actor that and then if you put that in a computer and you start animating it, it's so easy to turn that person into a bug or a cat or whatever, and then you kind of go with that. What's really interesting about when you start doing character design for animation, and usually if you're a writer, you're not involved. I was lucky. This one was independently done, so I got to be one of the producers on the film. But when you start going to like designing, they go, okay, well, what do you want it to look like? Uh-huh. Do we want it to have real fur? Which means it blows in the wind and it reacts with facial features. Okay, and sure, you want that. That's super expensive.
Yeah, 2 more years to work on it.
That's exactly right. Or do you want it to look slick? Do you want it to look like a 2D Saturday morning character? Do you want it? And that's where the big conversations happen. And a lot of times that's decided by money.
Right.
But yes, of course you want it to be real. You know, I remember, so I worked on both the Stuart Little movies, and I remember like months and months and months of talking about how the fur on his face would move, because it was so labor intensive for the computer animators to do, like because everything of fur has to move and has to. But they went totally down for it. And you watch the movie and you forget you're looking at an animated mouse. You think you're looking at something that's real, just like everybody else in the movie is real, which is kind of the magic of those movies.
Yeah, for sure. Stuart Little was amazing.
Plus, it was Michael L. Jackson. Michael L. Yeah, Michael
J. Fox.
Thank you. There's Michael L. Jackson, Michael J. Fox, Michael Cera. There's too many Michaels.
Here. He just gave me the name.
No, still, yeah. But it was Michael J. Fox, who was just so lovely, you know, and like Michael Cera, just lovable and likable. So the moment he starts talking, people go, "Oh, I like him. I like him." And that's really important. Right. We always, on every movie I've ever worked on with animated, there will be actors that are let go because after a while, what they bring doesn't fit the character anymore. Like what they bring to it doesn't help you realize where you want it to go. And so I've never been on an animated film that there wasn't some kind of a character change, because it's not like in a movie, if you film an actor for 3 days, he's in the movie. He's going to be in the movie, because you can't go back and, you know, you're not going to go back. Yeah. So, but animation, you can always revoice, and often they do. Often people revoice.
When you were recording, like when the actors were recording their voice work, are you in the studio with them?
Before COVID.
Right. And if like something doesn't stick, you know, like, do you like rewrite?
Yes. And so like one of the things, like on the Stuart Little movies, we would sit in the studio, and the director and I, and the actors would do stuff, and I would write down alternate lines and hand them to the director, and all the way through it I would write and if the director liked it, then he would say, "Oh, let's try one of these, let's try one of those." For Paws of Fury, I went to London 3 times to record Ricky Gervais. Right. And first of all, he can make anything work. He's so funny. I like him so much. But the moment he says something that's supposed to be funny, and if it's not funny, you know it's not funny, because he can make anything funny. So the moment he says something like, "Oh, we need to fix that. We got to change that." And then, you know, and then the really magic of when you get really great, wonderful actors like that is you do all the takes that you want to get, and then you say, let's have playtime. Let's make up stuff, and let's see what we do. And so Ricky was special at that. Michael Cera is very good at that. Nathan Lane, when we did, he was great at that. But yeah, but you're in the room for that, because you want the immediacy of hearing if it doesn't work. And I'll tell you, and you'll understand, is when we went to the COVID, where we were doing everything on Zoom, the performances aren't as good, because you're not in the room. You're not, you know. And listen, we have great actors, and they did great. And I don't ever want to say that it was less than great, but it's not the same. It's not the same, because there's that immediate of being in the room and saying, "Oh, that doesn't sound right," and they know it too. And then you have a conversation. It doesn't work on Zoom. It doesn't work.
Yeah, the electricity is not there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen behind the you don't really get to see that much, but I would watch whatever I can get my hands on, you know, like if there is any kind of behind the scenes, I'm there, I'm watching. And I was watching Frozen 2, so they were recording, and the actresses were like crying, because they're like, the music and everything is so emotional, and they're just like bawling, you know, themselves, right? Yeah, Dina Menzel was just she was just like going, you know, like she's not singing, she's just there listening to but it's the energy of the human, you know, like energy. Everybody's like, so it was so good.
And so often with big studio animated movies, the actors almost never see the other actors. They're almost always by themselves. And one of the things that and this may have come from Michael Cera. When Michael Cera came on to Paws of Fury, he insisted that he get to be in the room for at least some of the records with Samuel L. Jackson. he insisted that be part of the deal, because you get that play, you get the play, and you can't do that if you're by yourself. You need the interplay. And we have two great characters. We have Gabriel Iglesias and Asif Manvi are in the movie, and we recorded them together because we wanted them to be together, and they were both tentative. They're both hilarious, but they weren't hilarious until they got together.
It's just like unheard of, right? Like to put them together and
you put them together, and then if one makes everybody laugh, well, the other guy goes, well, I can make people laugh too, and then they start trying to make each other laugh, and that's when it gets special, right? That's when two funny people are trying to make each other laugh. That's when things get really interesting and special, and and that's when something happens, and you can feel it in the air. You're like, oh, something's happening, something's going on, and you don't get that when, Ricky was in London by himself, and Michelle. I think Michelle was in Singapore or somewhere like that. And you just don't get look, you cut it together and everybody does an amazing job and they're fantastic actors. So it works, right. But magic happens. I think magic happens when people are together. It's why dating is great, because they're actually together.
Right. Yeah.
It's much better than being alone.
Oh yeah, together. For sure. For sure. Yeah. So, I talked to I have a beautiful niece and a nephew. And,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and my nephew is a musician, and my niece is she's about to start her college, and she's going to be a painter and animator.
Oh,
yeah, it's like my family thing, and she's like, I gave her I told her that I'm gonna talk to you, and do you want to ask a couple of questions? And she's like, yeah. And this comes from her.
Sure. Of course.
She goes like, which character was the most difficult to portray when you were writing it?
Oh, for Paws of Fury?
Paws of Fury. Because I was like, watch the trailer and just tell me what you want to.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I'm going to do them in opposite order. The easiest people to write are always the bad guys. Because the bad guys are the most fun. They're the most fun.
Yeah.
Because they can say anything. They can be really outlandish and crazy. And because bad guys in animated movies are usually funny.
Right. You don't put a ceiling on it. You just blow it out.
Yeah, blow it, because you can always pull it back later on.
Right.
What you don't want to do is have to add. But the hardest character was Michael Cera's character. Hank's the hardest character. Because Hank, and this happens in a lot of films, the lead character is usually the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
The job of the lead character, because the lead character is the one that has to change, that needs to have a big arc.
Yeah.
So usually lead characters, the funny that they do is the reaction. They react funny to the craziness around them.
Right.
Writing the crazy stuff is easy, because you go as far as you can go. But then writing a straight man or straight woman, the one that doesn't say the jokey jokes, writing that to make it interesting without being boring, that's really a tightrope. That's a hard rope. That's a hard thing to write.
Wow.
And you go back and you change it all the time, because you go, well, I don't want him to say the joke because I'm saving the joke for Jimbo.
Right.
But he needs to be interesting and funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without, and so that's the hardest. Writing that lead character is the hardest. And unfortunately, the lead character is usually not the most fun to write.
Uh-huh.
Because he's the one learning the lessons, or she's the one learning the lessons, and they're the one wondering why is that person being so crazy, and why are they being so mean, and all that other stuff. They're not fun. The fun ones are always, everybody likes writing the bad guy. When you watch a James Bond movie, they love writing the bad guy. The bad guy's the interesting one.
Yeah, of course, because we already know who James
Bond
is.
They say and do things that we sometimes want to do, but we don't, because we're trying to be good people. So yeah, on Paws of Fury, Hank was the hardest, by far.
Wow.
And the most important. You have to get them right. If you don't get them right, the movie falls apart.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we were lucky to get Michael Cera, who just brought Michael Cera's magic to it, and he's great. He's he's one of those guys that there's a lot of references in the script. And he would show up on the first day and go, oh, I wanted to ask, is this reference about this novel? And I'd go, oh my God, that's exactly right. And he goes, oh, is this a play on the words of the, and oh my God, that's exactly right. That's so he came in he got it. He just, and you get so excited when that happens. Oh, he gets it. He actually gets it.
Yeah, and Michael Cera does a lot of theater work as well, right? He
Oh,
was in this.
yeah, he's great. His theater work's really impressive. Like he does some
Yes,
really heartfelt, deep stuff.
right. He was in Lobby Hero, I think.
Right.
Yeah, on Broadway, like a couple
I
of
think
times.
he's about to do something else. I believe so. I think he's in New York doing something else.
Oh, how cool! How
But
cool!
he gets, he has one of those great lives. He lives in Brooklyn and he's married with a new kid, and
Right.
he gets to make money making movies and then go do a play.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that? That sounds
Right.
fantastic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Especially like now, it's like a lot of celebrities moving in here, like more than in California. It seems
Right.
like I don't know. It feels like you can hear like Ethan Hawke, like Oscar
Right.
Isaac, like Ryan
Right.
Reynolds. Everybody's here. Jake Gyllenhaal. And,
Michael was living in Brooklyn, and we would record in Manhattan, and he would
Mhm.
ride his bike in, which I just thought was the
Oh, how
coolest
cool!
thing. I just loved him for that.
Yeah. So this is another one from my niece.
Oh, sure.
It's like a serious one. She's like, when writing a Paws of Fury, have you had any fear of cultural inappropriation because it's Asian based?
Right. Right.
It's my
Yeah.
18-year-old.
No, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
because it's a question that comes up all the time.
Right? Yeah.
Let's go back to the inception of the film. Is
Mhm.
uh, At the time, the first producers on the film, at the time, the United States was taking so many Asian films and making them westernized. We were taking
Right.
films from Korea and from China, and we're doing the West. And their idea was, let's take a classic American film and see if we can take it to the East.
Mm,
And they
okay.
wanted it to be a comedy, and they wanted it to be about what's on the inside is more important on the outside. So Blazing Saddles. And so we ended up going to Mel Brooks to talk to him about it, and
Mhm.
he gave us his blessing, and it was just great. So when we started it, one of the really important things that we wanted to do was to make sure it wasn't, we were very much about making sure that behind the camera and on screen, we had a Benetton commercial of different races and colors and people to make sure that and we would always talk to people like, are we being inappropriate here? Sam Jackson was big on, because we were, at first when he was on, we were talking about it being people.
Right.
Are you okay? Are we crossing?
Right.
And when Michelle Yeoh came on, and we have a lovely a Korean actress. Oh, and I feel terrible. Once again, but she plays a part, and
Mhm.
she wanted to do it with a very, very distinct, like Asian grandma.
Right.
And we said, I remember having a conversation. We're going, I don't think you can do that. We're not comfortable with that, because we feel like. And she goes, I'm Korean. If people have a problem, you tell them to come to me, because this is how my grandma talks. I'm not making
Right.
up a character. This is my grandma.
Uh-huh.
And so we were very close to that. But when and this happens all the time now. And just to be frank, when we have a Zoom meeting and it's a whole bunch of white guys, we think we need to shake things up, because there's gonna be a problem.
Right.
And that happens all the time. We go,
Mhm.
oh, we need to shake things up. We need to get. I just had a meeting yesterday on a movie, and we're like, and I wrote this script, and it's about 4 women,
Uh-huh.
and there's a director, a guy, and we were looking for a producer, and I go, you think we should get a woman, man? Because that could help us a lot. Like,
Right.
maybe we need to go talk to somebody to make sure that we're not appropriating a gender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not,
Of course.
and I go back to this all the time, and people go, how are you writing women, or how are you writing an African American? And I go, I just write people. I just write character.
Mhm.
And then let's get the actor, and then let's have a conversation about what works and what doesn't work. And if we're on then let's have that conversation, because I don't want to write, oh, I'm writing a woman here. I want to write a person. I want to write a person that has a desire and obstacles to get to the desire, and they act in a certain way, and they I think every character has to have 3 wants. They want someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And I don't care if they're Asian or black or
Right.
or whatever. I try and give all those characters, okay, they got these 3 things. Now, what's not working for them? Which one of those are they not getting, or are they not getting all of them?
Mhm.
And then go from there, because without a doubt, you know, and the movie Paws of Fury is going to be released by Paramount, and the head of Paramount Animation is a woman who is half Japanese, and so we had a big conversation about, you know, and she was fell in love with the movie, is a big champion of it, but she was really clear about, you know, we're not gonna release a movie that makes fun of,
Right.
And I go, that we're not doing that at all. Like, what we're making fun of is people that judge other people. That's what we're making fun of.
Yeah.
We're not going to make fun of a race or a country or anything else. And again, it completely helped us that we went from the first 3 years was a young African-American man who went to Japan.
Right.
Now we have a dog that goes to Catland, and that helps immensely. And I know that's a little bit too heavy a talk, but those are the talks you have when you're doing a comedy. You have to think about those things, because what you want to do is you want to make people laugh. You don't want to upset people. You don't want to insult people. That's not the point. And so, you know, we had for a while, a Japanese actor that was on Lost.
On Lost?
Or Heroes. He was on Heroes. Yoki, shoot. Anyway, he came on and he advised us for a long time when it was people about this will not work. This should be cut out, and these things are okay. And he said, you know, one of the things about like Japan is comedies are really tough in Japan, because he says mostly we don't think things are funny. Mostly we take things really serious.
Yeah, different humor. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so he said, you know, the thing is to have, you know, make it fun, and audiences like the fun. But the moment you cross over to making fun of, then it's a different movie.
Right.
And I don't want to make fun. I want people to have a good time. I want to make another one. Let's have a good time and go make another one.
Yeah, it's so like from the things that you said, like I'm so interested because I initially always thought, like, when I'm writing, I don't want to put like color of the skin, you know, like even age, even gender sometimes.
Right.
But then I was told, like, when you don't do that, it's most likely gonna be cast as white person.
Right.
Like,
right.
So in order, if you don't want to do that, like,
right.
to avoid, like, you specifically put like Middle Eastern, like black, or like Asian, like mix, whatever you want to, like, how do you see that, like a woman or not, or you know.
Right.
And
I worked on a script last year with another writer, and it's about 3 women. I keep writing these movies with all women in them, but and that's why and my writing partner was a woman, which is great because I know nothing about women evidently, and she does. And so, but we had 3 characters, and when we got done, we realized, oh, there's nothing in this movie that doesn't mean that those 3 characters can be any ethnicity. They can all be the same ethnicity. They can all be 3 different ethnicities. There's nothing in the movie that says that. So we went back, and instead of, you know, and for casting purposes, and with live action, you always have to think about casting. Instead of saying, okay, this one is African American, and this one is Asian American, and this one is, we actually just did a header before we introduced the 3 characters and said, there are no restraints on these characters. They can be of any ethnicity. They can all be the same. You know, we just kind of did a whole banner just to say, you know, everything is open in this movie. And then we just described them as what their character was like, not what they looked like or anything. And I had a friend a few years ago that wrote a novel, and she gave herself a challenge. And her challenge was what you're talking about. She does not describe a single character in the novel, not one.
Wow.
No. And she just said, I'm just going to see if it's possible to do that. And you read the novel and you go, and you don't miss it. You don't miss it. I mean, you're not trying to cast it, which is different, because a casting director is going to look at it and go, what the heck? But yeah, that was I'm going to write a 300-page novel.
In a novel, it's even harder, isn't it? I mean, like, because you're reading and you have to reveal in character, like, how do you, like, he comes in like in jeans and shirt, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You usually go like brown eyes, like olive skin, or
oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Without that, wow, it must have been very tough.
Right. I try not to, you know, I got really upset one time. I was in a casting session, and I felt terrible because one of the characters was described as like an immensely unattractive, obese woman. And all of these lovely actresses came in to audition for it. And I thought, that's the worst thing. Like, hey, there's a part for you. And it says on the page, amazing. I thought, oh my God, I will never do that to anybody. So I changed on purpose. And like I said, I spent a lot of time talking about, like, I try in one or two lines to give what the soul of their character is. Like I'll say, she has tired eyes that make you want to help all the time.
Right.
Because you're like, and that way you go, people just like her. They go, oh my God, what's going on? And it also says that she's worn out, she's exhausted, she's tired. So I try and do just little stuff like that. And I try to stay away from, she's beautiful, but no one knows it because she has glasses on. Like, and also like everybody's beautiful in their own way. So I try not to put.
I was thinking like unattractive, whatever that means. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to do that. Like, a gruesome face with an obese body. Like that's going to be a person. Person's going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, I know. It drives me nuts. And it's so unkind, and I feel. And,
yeah, it is.
And God bless the people that like actually show up for the auditions, going, "No, it's me." Why wasn't I in that? She was really ugly. I could have done that.
Yeah. So you worked a lot with director Rob Minkoff, clearly, right?
Yes.
For people who don't know, he's the director of original animated The Lion King.
Right. He co-directed that with Roger Ailes.
Yeah, and also Forbidden Kingdom, where
Forbidden Kingdom with Jackie Chan, which is how I met Jackie Chan.
Jet Li. Yeah, Jet Li as well. Like it was like a dream come true actually to see them both in one movie.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. So because you worked together for so long, like what have you learned from him? Like what was like the I don't know, like shorthand maybe you have with each other?
Rob is super, super great with the scale. And I mean the scale of the story, like the big picture stuff. He's super good with that. Like he was one of the first people to go, the movie should be a fable. Like right off the bat, should be a fable. But he's really good at that stuff. And he's really lovely about letting me do the detail stuff.
Okay.
Like he'll say like we'll argue about stuff and we've gotten better over the years where we don't argue as much. We just go, that doesn't work for us. Let's get a different idea. Let's try something different. But I really listen to him on the big picture stuff because he just has a sense of that and I don't. And he's been so generous to let me do the detail stuff. And he'll tell me if he feels like I've gotten off track on a character, like I'm not being through line with the character. Like he can pick that out right away. And I'm really good on telling him like, that's not funny. You got to fix that. That's not funny. And so it's been really good that way because, and that's what you want to do in any business is you want to work with people that are good at what they do and you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. When I directed a movie, I realized that something people have been telling me for years. When you hire somebody on a movie, and it doesn't matter if it's the head of the costume department or an actor, you are so relieved because you can stop worrying about that because you've got somebody great. And now I got 11 million other things to worry about.
Right.
And so, as with a writer and director, if you have somebody that's really good at, and they just let you do your thing, that's great. You just you do what you're really good at. And then every once in a while you go, can we try one more take, but have them do this or, have them try it like this. And if they're generous, the director will say, yes. I just talked to Bill Macy at a film festival, and he said it's so funny because everybody in Hollywood needs a writer, and they're the first person to be asked to leave the set because once the director and the producers are there, they don't want the writer going, that's not what I meant by the get out of my set.
Is it hard to let go though? This is like also very interesting for me. Like they're like, no, this is not how I envisioned it.
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, the moment you take a check, you don't own the movie anymore.
Yeah.
And you're lucky if they let you come and play. Like if they're nice, they'll let you come and play, but you don't own them. It's not yours anymore. And when you go, you know, so many the happiest writers I know on planet Earth are novelists because they get the closest to what their vision is because you know they have editors and stuff, but that's their vision. The unhappiest people are screenwriters because it becomes the director's movie and the producer's movie and the star's movie.
Right.
And you'll say, oh, you know, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But I wanted this angle from the camera.
Right. Yeah. And I know, and I've been on, not my movies, but I've been on sets on other movies where they would cut after a take and the actors would walk over to the writer and ask a question. And I've seen the director go, get them off the set.
Oh, wow.
Because they don't want them going to the writer. They want you come to me and ask a question.
Right.
But they, you know, but you go, but the writer spent like 3 years with the characters. Like maybe they're, you know, it's one of those things. But you know, if you can be the Coen brothers, where you get to be both,
right? That's
amazing, right? That's amazing. You get to be the, you know, not only have a good writing partner and directing partner, but you got two voices. Like that's amazing. And you'll see people like Clint Eastwood. He works with the same people all the time because he knows.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of big directors do, right? Yeah.
Same people all the time. Again, one less thing they have to think about. They got a million problems to think about. So
amazing. Do you watch a lot of stuff?
I don't watch as much as I used to because I have a problem is I don't enjoy it like I used to because I pick it apart.
Right.
Like I go, they missed an opportunity there. They you know, and why is this scene even? You know, I do that. I pick it apart. It is horrible. It's horrible. And also, I know too much because I know too many tricks, and I go, oh well, she's the killer. You know, I'm 2 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, she's the killer.
Okay.
You know, I watch. I see dead people. I go, oh, he's dead, and then I got another 2 hours of movie.
When you were watching, okay, like I just tying up to what you said. When you were watching Knives Out, when did you know?
Oh no.
Did you know?
I'm saying what I liked about Knives Out, it was so clever that I got caught up in the cleverness, and so no, I didn't know for a long time, and it's one of those things where, and this happens with everybody I know, you get tricked sometimes, and you actually just become an audience member, and that's the really great movies do that for you, like. You get tricked into being an audience member, and it's such a pleasure because you go back and I love movies. I like movies so much, but most movies are so not smart like that.
Right.
And I've also kind of gotten through, and then COVID did this to me, is television and films have gotten so dark.
Right.
And you know, and you think about the heyday of American comedies was during the Depression, and so they wrote comedies to give people an out. A release. And I've been arguing that Hollywood, we should be writing comedies right now. We should be writing Ted Lassos where people are kind to each other. Like we should be writing those movies. But when you look at TV, like everything's dark. Everything, how much darker can we get? How much more evil can our lead character be? And it drives me nuts. And so with COVID too, it's like, you know what? I can't take the evil anymore. I just want a little bit of kindness. I want a little bit of lightness, and so that's kind of taken me away from seeing some stuff.
Right.
So now I find that I read more than I used to. I read a lot more.
Right.
I go. First of all, I like looking at the words, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense. For sure.
Like I love words. I love words. I love how they sound and how they make you feel. And I love the idea that it doesn't matter if it's William Shakespeare or a guy writing, on Showtime. 26 letters and some punctuation. We all have the exact same tools. 26 letters and punctuation.
Right.
How can you make yours unique than anybody else's on the planet? How can you not pretend to try and be somebody else? Be yourself. It's fascinating to me.
Straight door into anxiety.
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's kind of funny that you can go, you can take like love. Like, oh, I love a bagel in the morning.
Right.
But you can change that, and you can say, I love my wife when I wake up and I see her in the morning, and now it's completely same word, same, but it means a completely different thing, you know. And I'm fascinated by that. I love how I'm using love a lot. I get so inspired by just seeing the words. I just want to see the words.
No, I got you because I love. I also gonna use the word, the
Yeah,
language. Yeah, I respect it. Like people are why English. I'm like I don't know. Like I love the language. I just
right.
respect it so much. Like why I asked if you watch a lot of things. I wanted to ask what was the last thing that you saw that really stayed with you, aside from the nice out, that really
Oh,
stayed with you. That
you know what? I would say that the things that stay with me now are mostly in television, because a lot of the really
sure,
great, that's where the good writing has gone now, and it's where actually writers with a voice can be heard, because their voice gets through. Their voice actually gets through.
right.
You know, it stays in the show, whereas uh, studio movies, it tends to get tamped down, tamped down, tamped down. Um, but okay, first of all, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso felt like, especially during COVID, it felt like the universe just gave everyone a hug. And I remember calling everybody, going, "We that's what we should be doing. We need to be doing that. Like if we want to change the world, let's do that. Let's
Yeah,
make that aspirational for people, that they should be kind and care." Um, Afterlife, Ricky Gervais's
oh
Afterlife,
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
was really, really special. I thought it was a really interesting way at looking at loss,
yeah.
and
Love
about,
the
you
doctor.
know, not the sad, 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 but the angry, angry, angry.
Hmm.
You know, and only he can do it funny. Like he can be
Right.
angry and funny. Um, but I found that especially during COVID, I've gone to like a lot of TV, because TV just seems to be more. It's where better writing's happening. Really, it's just um,
Sure.
movies right now are either Marvel movies, nothing wrong with that, or Blumhouse movies. Right? It's like
Right.
it's horror, or it's big giant actiony,
Hmm.
and I feel like what's the Benedict Cumberbatch movie that's out right now?
Doctor Strange.
It feels like he's been in 3 movies since New Year's, right? 3 Doctor Strange movies, because
Sort
he
of.
was in Spider-Man as Doctor
Yeah, he
Strange,
was.
and they're all in each other's movies. And I'm going, that's all the same movie. It's all the same movie.
Yeah, this one was sadder though. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, but it feels like, yeah. But it's funny, they don't make rom-coms anymore, really. Um, you know, it's kind of funny what has happened to film. Like there's not that medium budget drama, you know, with Richard Gere and somebody. There's not like
Yeah.
that
Right.
high concept rom com. You know, it's funny. Movies have either become, can you do it for $3 million,
Right. Hmm.
or can you do a Marvel movie?
You should see the. I don't know if you haven't seen it. The Sandra Bullock's latest movie, The Lost.
Right,
The
right.
Lost
Which is kind of a
City.
reimagination of what was the one with we're so bad about this, with Michael Douglas and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The what with the jewel?
Romancing the
Like
Stone. Romancing the
no,
Stone.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it, but I'm a gigantic fan. And
yeah. It was funny. It was funny.
yeah,
And there
I heard
was
they have great chemistry, which is
yeah, it was
so
very
huge.
cute. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
cute. Yeah.
yeah. You know, there's nothing worse than getting a movie that everything is right, except the two actors hate each other.
My God.
And you're like, oh my God, you have to fall in love and you have to be funny together. You're like, oh Jesus God, we're done. We're
I
done.
can't imagine how people work like that. I mean, like it was on something like a movie, right? They have to be really, really, really good and really, really,
Yeah.
really professional.
Yeah. No, I want to see. I'm a big fan. I think she makes really interesting, strong choices in what she does too, and so I'm excited to see the Sandy Bullock movie. Yeah,
Yeah, it was good. Like I think it's already out and on digital right
I
now.
think so
So you
too,
don't have to.
because it goes so much faster now than it used to.
Oh yeah,
Everything
you're
goes so
right.
much faster.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
and
it used to be, you would do a deal, and the deal would say, I mean, after the movie does its run, it's going to be on DVD, right? And now it's like it's going to have its run before it's on DVD, right? Before it streams, like it's going to be
yeah,
in the theater before it streams, right?
yeah,
And now
exactly.
big actors are like putting that in their contract, that it has to be theatrically released before it streams.
Yeah, and it's so
So
weird because they did another Stephen King adaptation called The
yeah, the
Fire
fire starter.
Starter. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
the little girl that can make fire. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think they are releasing it both in theater and on Peacock, I believe, or Paramount or something.
right.
Something with a P.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
at the same time. Yeah, and it's a big movie actually with Zac Efron, I think.
Right.
Yeah, in the
Yeah, I
lead.
don't know.
Yeah.
I think the business is changing so fast that the deal making and the way they do all that stuff has not caught up yet. It will catch up, but it hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, because like before it was like you have to wait for a DVD like for months and months, and right?
Right.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch it on the big screen, there's like always gap, and you have to wait for the DVD.
You have
And
to wait a year, then it'd be on HBO in a year, you know?
yeah, right? Yeah, for free.
I
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, so yeah, it was like yeah, it's weird. Like, but I'm really happy for the streaming. Like, it saved us for sure during the pandemic. Yeah. Right?
Look,
We're like,
it's good for people that want to work in our business because there's more opportunity. There's so much more opportunity to work in our business. Um, People make less money, but they can work more, and that's that's the trade-off, which is great. Um, there is this bubble that will burst, and there's all these streamers now, and it will level out. Like quite a few will go away. Like the ones that have figured out the best will survive. Just like there was a zillion movie studios back in the day, and then there ended up being like 7 that survived, right?
Right.
So same thing will happen, but it's a new business model. But again, if someone's coming out of film school, their chances of getting a job today are magnified many times over what it would have been 15 years ago. Magnified many times. And the thing that I keep talking to people about is until you get that job, grab your friends and your phone and go make movies. Grab your friends and your phone, go make shorts. Grab your friends and your phone and go. And then the next step is do whatever you can to get on a set.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a job that you don't want to do, get on a set, because the amount you will learn in a short amount of time is huge.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, just put me there. I'll fetch a coffee. Like, just go.
Exactly right. And that's how I started. That's how a lot of people started, because it was so important to be on a set.
Yes, no, I'm gonna be happy. Just
Yeah.
bring a coffee.
There's
Just
a
let
great
me stand there.
interview with Steven Spielberg, and after my movie sold at Sundance, my first movie sold at Sundance, my first job was for Steven Spielberg. My first paid job was for Steven
Wow,
Spielberg,
I'm so jealous.
which was so exciting. It was so fun. But he tells the story in interviews. He and George Lucas and John Milius and Zemeckis, they all came out of USC at the same time.
Right.
And they asked Steven, like, why, what was different that you guys all exploded and no one else did? And he said, and it sounds so simple, he goes, we were all single. We were a bunch of nerds. None of us could get a girlfriend. And so all we could do all the time was work on each other's movies. And so if somebody got a movie and said, hey, I snuck onto so-and-so's set, come over right now. And we all would go over and sneak on the set. Or if somebody got a little gig, he would, everybody come, I got a little gig, come on my set. And he goes, and then when we all started getting some success, and then we got girlfriends and wives, well then, we were already, our trajectory had already started, but we didn't have that thing anymore where we were all just 24 hours a day in each other's face going movies. It was just a strange time. But it's the greatest time in the world to be a nerd. This is the time it's time to be a nerd. Whether it's tech or arts or film, like nerds are winning. Nerds are winning.
It's our time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. Like, I had no idea you will be able to talk to me this long. I'm so thankful.
No, sure. Anything you need. It's anything anybody Lima needs, you let me know.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for Paws of Fury, and I can't imagine your first time screening with the audience. It must be like the most happy time, right?
You just hope. The first time I did a movie, I'll go back to Bill Macy. The first time we screened with an audience, he sat in the back, and as the curtain, they had a curtain. Right. The curtain opened, the lights went down. Bill just went, "Don't suck, don't suck, don't suck," because he hadn't seen the movie yet. Don't suck, please don't suck. And that's, you know what? And you talk about that imposter syndrome. You have that same feeling every time the movie starts. You're like,
oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Please, people laugh when you're supposed to laugh. Please.
Cry when you're supposed to cry.
I know, see, like, exactly. Please.
Yeah, I'm so happy and excited for your premiere very soon. Now,
Thanks.
in 2 months, and
And
congratulations.
thank you to your crew. Thanks to the crew and the
Yeah,
gang there. Thank you, everybody.
thank
Yay!
you.
All right,
I
yeah!
know.
Yay for
Yeah,
crews.
yeah. Thank you so much.
12 Hours in the Future is produced by Jim Carney and Maria Sanchir, with technical help from Curtis Antwi and Daryl Mandiola. Special thanks to Professor Tom O'Hanlon, Dean James Mann, Professor Stephanie Stowe, and Magda Soto. The executive producer and host of 12 Hours in the Future is Maria Sanchir. 12 Hours in the Future with Maria Sanchir is a series of conversations recorded by the Bronx Journal Radio through the resources of Lehman College, City University of New York. You can find us everywhere podcasts are available and on YouTube. This show is protected under international copyright and may not be recorded or retransmitted without written consent. Until next time, when we see you 12 hours in the future.